Oh, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for coming. I know I've been feeling really blessed being at this conference. It's really interesting meeting so many people, hearing so many talks. So I think because we're all thinking along the same lines, there will be some repetition here. So I hope that will just solidify your knowledge about it. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. My talk is called How to Save More Animals. So I'm going to talk you through the agenda in a second, but just to introduce myself, I'm Laura Hellwig, as you said, and I'm the managing director and head of campaigns of VIVA. I've been working for VIVA for 7.5 years and really started in campaigns straight away when I was there, and then done a lot of campaigning over the 7.5 years. Like at the beginning, I was a lot out on the street. I did my first thing was a video van tour, an ice cream tour, and those kind of things. And now I'm a bit more leading the team and directing the team, and the campaigns team is going out to universities, street actions, and those kind of things. So let's have a look at what we're going to talk about. So first of all, I want to just remind ourselves why we are here. I'm pretty sure you all have a pretty good idea about that, but just to bring it back to our mind. And then my friend gave me this really nice tool. And then we're going to talk about who is actually our audience and what are they doing, and we're going to talk about who they are in a second. The power of campaigning, the campaigning techniques, the role of social media, the state of veganism, and then how to take action. So I think first I think it's really important when you work in the movement or you do outreach. We all know we do it for the animals, but for me personally, it really helps. Sometimes I feel in my mind I've got this ambassador of an animal, it could be for you a companion animal, but for me it's when I go out on an investigation. The latest one I've done is the Tafan investigation when I went on one visit. And I remember walking onto the farm, and the last thing what we were doing was going to calf hutches. And there were female calves, they were really young, they were under a week old, a few days old. And we were setting up the cameras to film again. And I walked over to this one calf hutch, and they had this, this is from a previous visit from our investigators, that picture, but it was very similar to this. And I walked over, and the calf desperately started suckling my fingers, and it was just really hits you home, what's happening in the dairy industry. And this is just translatable to the other industries as well. The calf was desperately suckling my finger and looking for comfort. And then when we had to continue filming, I walked away from the calf, and the calf was really distressed in the hutch and was looking for comfort. They wanted to be nurtured. So I think it reminds me why we're doing this. And I've, similar stories from going to pig farms, and it feels sometimes there's this one animal you really connect to, and you remind yourself why you're doing this, who's an ambassador for yourself, or when you tell other people why you're vegan, of why we're doing this. And then, of course, there's the huge environmental destruction. And I know I don't have to go into the details here, which is handy because you all know what I'm talking about, but it is massive. And that's not just destroying the planet, it's destroying animals as well. There's wildlife loss, the whole climate crisis. So we do a lot of campaigning on that as well. And then there's health, of course. I personally didn't go vegan for health. That's probably at the bottom of my own pyramid. But I think it's a really, really good argument, because we don't only can save our planet, thousands of lives, but we can also actually do something for ourselves. So I think when you talk to people, it's really important to think about what might be driving them. Because if somebody goes vegan for the health reasons, once they stop eating meat and they stop actually consuming and being part of that industry, they will be more likely to then also care about the animals, look more into that. So just a little reminder of why we're here, and you might have your own story, which reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. And then I know lots of people have been talking about this, so I think it just shows how important it is to think about it. It's what are they doing? And when I talk about they, I'm not talking about individual farmers, because the farmers are part victims as well. Suicide rates of farmers is incredibly high. They have a quite low annual income. They can never really take holidays. They're looking after the animals. So obviously we've done certain investigations where you had farmers hitting animals. Obviously that is very wrong, and that's abuse. But in general, I don't want to say the farmers are our biggest enemy. I think it's mainly really the big corporations. So I actually would like to share some really interesting ads they've been working on with you, and kind of show you the reality of it. So one ad I've looked at is a la Craven Day, that everyone is free. And I'm going to show you the ad, kind of have a little talk about what they are trying to achieve, and then I show you some undercover footage which we filmed, which shows that this is not true. But I also decided to not choose any very graphic footage, because I know we all know what's going on and I don't want to re-traumatize you. But yeah, let's have a look at this one.
Everybody's free to feel good, feel good. Everybody's free to feel good, feel good. Everybody's free. Everybody's free.
At Arla Cravendale, all our cows are free to graze.
Yeah, so what does this evoke in the consumer? You see like lovely, lush, big green fields, farmers who are really approachable, they're singing everyone's free. Did anybody spot a calf in this clip? I didn't, so we're not even telling the consumer that the calves are part of anything. We actually recently did a study and we polled 2,000 UK citizens, and the knowledge about the dairy industry is still shocking, because you would think nowadays people know, but even like sometimes people are still shocked to hear that cows have to be made pregnant to give milk and have to give birth. So that's really where we are. And what are they trying to achieve? Yeah, they're painting the idyll, what's happening out there is just lovely, the calves having a great life, the farmers having a great life, everyone is, friendly with each other. So I actually show you some footage our head of investigation got. I'm not going to show you our whole zero grazing video because it's a bit longer, but I'm just going to zoom to the relevant bit.
Euphoria. 1 in 5 of the UK's 1.9 million dairy cows never know even this glimmer of pleasure. Zero grazing means they spend their entire lives behind bars to meet the demands of huge dairy companies such as Muller. This is their life until they're killed at about 5 or 6 years old. This is what they inhale every day. This is the only walk they will ever take.
So yeah, I don't think we have to watch the whole video, but as you see, that's really absolutely not what's portrayed in the video. It's the opposite. The cows are kept inside for all of the year. They are, in 1 in 5, never go outside and are actually in those barns. So yeah, the dairy industry is really trying to show us how amazing dairy is, how good it is for the consumers, and they are just being deceived. Similar really with Red Tractor. I don't know if many of you know about Red Tractor, but yeah, they are a big insurance label, and almost all dairy farms are Red Tractor insured, and most of a lot of other farms, like pig farms we go to, are Red Tractor insured too. And when you actually see what they do, the Red Tractor said, farmed with care, we're looking after the animals, welfare is important for us. And whenever we expose them, they actually, they're like, oh, welfare is the utmost important for us. And you show them this. And often they do drop them, but then, they might actually just reinstate them. It's really just a big marketing plot. They also do have some ads, but I want to talk a bit more about the AHDB Eat Balanced campaign. So I've also pulled out one of their ads. Let me get to it.
There's lots of goodness in there. And there.
How does the goodness get in? Is it in the air? Or the rain? Or in what they eat?
Actually, meat and dairy naturally contain vitamin B12, which helps us get energy from the food and stay healthy.
Wow. Meat and dairy. Enjoy the goodness.
Yeah, well, again, you can see how...
There's lots of good...
I've put some of their stats together. Yeah, you can see how they used the family idyll, the granddad with a child running through the countryside, having a nice dinner at the evening at home, and they're using B12, which obviously, is the one thing we as vegans supplement. But I assume you all know this, but why do we supplement B12? Because, the animals actually don't even have it in them. They get it supplement. So but they are trying. They're looking at, what are the vegans doing? How can we actually debunk this? Because they are scared. Like if you look at how the dairy industry makes a huge loss without the subsidies, they really try to hone in. And obviously they're very far ahead in the game of us, because people grew up eating meat, grew up eating dairy. That's what they trust. What comes up and up again is like the British farming. That's what we trust, the British farming, the British grown, support British farmers. They're really playing on this. They know how to get their audience, and they're good at it. And they have a huge budget. I think Robbie mentioned how much they even just used for the We Eat Balanced campaign, which I think was 5 million. But for their whole marketing budget and expert development, they have 19 million a year, which is a huge budget. Like if I look at, we're going to talk a bit more about paid social media in a minute, but how many people you can reach with that. So these guys have been doing national TV, advertisement, which they reach 43 million adults with. They obviously do a lot of social media as well, and they're just reiterating that people that trust British food, trust the farmers, and also they do get into the supermarkets, so they do get stickers on the supermarkets, which we have a much harder job with because we're coming into this where this is already all built up. So we are up against a lot. And that's why I think we have to be very conscious about what we do. So that's why I want to do a little exercise with all of us. And I think one part of how to save more animals is to remind ourselves who is actually our audience. And I think it's really easy. Like I, for example, went on a retreat a few weeks ago, and I had gone on the same one before. And there was this woman, she was running it, all the food was vegan. So I really sympathize with that. And I was like, that's great. Like, the woman understands me. We're doing yoga. That's something, really wholesome. So the second time I went on the retreat, she actually asked me on the dinner table, are you vegan? I was like, yes, I am. Are you? I was just assuming she's going to say yes. She's like, no, I love fish, love eating fish. And it was just, upsetting. And I just felt differently about her. And then she brought it up the next day again, like at the dinner table. Oh, I love eating fish. I love eating fish. And I thought, oh, wow, we're at this vegan retreat and you care about animals. She's got like adopted dogs. And I have to check in with myself because I thought, I actually feel different about her now. And I think it's hard to sympathize with our target audience because we are just a step further now morally, that we see animals not as food, that we want them to be free. So I think I invite you to either leave your eyes open or closed, whatever you feel comfortable with. And let's do it at a time journey. Let's travel back in time. So for some of you, it might be traveling back 6 months. For some, it might be traveling back 5 years, 10 years, 2 decades. Just think about the moment when you went from being a non-vegan to a vegan. And I invite you to think about what were your beliefs then? What had changed? What were you believing about animals? What was your worldview? How did you feel about suffering happening to animals? How did you feel about other people consuming them? Just take a few seconds and make a few notes in your mind. So now you arrived at when you went vegan. So let's travel back a bit further. Let's travel back to the moment when you were one of those people who either was like, I never go vegan. Where would I get my protein from? Or heard it. Like, I care about animals, but I'm veggie already. Being vegan is just a step too extreme. Let's travel back to that point. And really, I'd really like to hear, and I'd be really curious to hear some people in the audience, like, what was that belief, that one thing where you thought, this is why you couldn't go vegan? Because I think that's so important for us. So I'll let you do the little travel first. I'll give you a few seconds, and then I'll ask some people in the audience. I'd really like to hear what was your belief and kind of what changed? What was the first thing which then actually made you take that step? Because, I think it's just so important for us to connect with it. And obviously, I do love the work of Animal Think Tank because you really look into that as well. But we can do a little experiment here. So I give you a few seconds, and then we can hand around the mic already at the ready. We are ready to start. We already got someone who'd like to share. A few people. Maybe, if you could say your name out loud, just so we know, we can make it a bit more intimate, know who we're talking to, and tell your story.
Hi, my name's Chris McLaren. Thank you for doing that, and your talk's really good. For me, I was in complete denial. I think a lot of us are extra sensitive and compassionate, and I couldn't look. I think I half knew, but I had to repress, I had to push away, I had to use cognitive dissonance and all kinds of coping mechanisms to not face the truth. And the transition happened with me understanding a language of a mother cow. I moved from a sanitized London to a rural county, and I heard the cry of the mother. I'm a mother and a grandparent, and yeah, I understood her language. And that day.
Thank you so much for sharing. I find that really powerful. And you think, I do this job, I've done this for 8 years, and you hear it on the streets, but I find it really powerful to hear that from you, like what changed you and to connect with that. Thank you for sharing. Is there anybody else who's happy to share? Oh, well, loads of people. Oh, I love the age diversity.
He's always been vegan. So
amazing.
I don't know if he has anything to add. Go on.
I've been born vegan.
Oh, let's give a little applause for that. Amazing.
No, my turn. Hi, I'm Sasa. I went vegan almost 12 years ago after being vegetarian since I was 6. But it's obviously for the exact same reasons I went vegetarian. And I remember, like, if I think back, like, into my 20s, I remember thinking, oh gosh, vegans are so extreme. Microbes could be landing in your saliva when you breathe through your mouth, and they could be dying. You should just not walk on grass because ants or something. And I didn't know. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I was such an idiot. But then at the same time, the marketing is so incredibly cohesively, there's so much money in it just to hide it. And I don't know. But yeah, I wish when I was 4, when I figured out where meat came from and I wanted to go vegetarian, I wish someone had been walking by an open window just randomly, like a friendly neighborhood vegan, and just be like, you can do that, it'll be fine, and you can give up eggs and dairy too, and then you don't have to walk around with a bunch of vegetarian guilt as an adult, and carry all this trauma. But yeah, I feel like the next generation of people are I feel like they're going to be the ones to do it. I hope. He's already doing it. Anyway.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to share as well?
So I went vegan 4 years ago. I was one of those awful bacon though people. And then
I'm glad you're here, because I really think it's so important for us, because that's a big audience.
And then my ex-partner now, but my partner at the time sat me down in front of Cowspiracy. And then I went vegan because it was just not something I could deny. So.
Amazing. Was that overnight or did?
Yeah,
wow.
We emptied the fridge. We ate everything in the fridge because we don't waste things, even if they're dead bodies. And then we went vegan. So
amazing. Well done. Thank you for sharing. Do we have one more person who wants to share, maybe?
Thanks. Mine was quite similar. I grew up in Turkey and found out my English literature teacher, who was an American, was a vegetarian of 25 years. And I thought, oh, it's such a Western thing to do. And she looked at me and she said, oh, I've been vegetarian 25 years. And I looked at her and I said, miss, you're in the land of kebab. I'm going to take you to a kebab shop now. She looked at me and she said, Melda, you are my best student. And she opened her drawer and she took out Animal Liberation by Peter Singh. And I went home and I was like, oh, I love her, but she's insane. I was 14, by the way. Went home, didn't want to read it, so I just Googled, why would anyone go vegetarian? Then I came across Earthlings. And in one night, that was a switch, but I didn't get what vegan meant for a couple more years. And I became vegan and I thought, never gonna go vegan, all of them are depressed. And then I came to the UK and I met really wonderful, happy vegans. And then I was like, yeah, I wanna be active now. Can't be passive anymore, but going active took me longer than going vegan or vegetarian. So I think it's important to think about what barriers are for people not going vegan, but also a lot of vegans are passive.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing. I think that's just so interesting. I wish we had time for more, because I can see, people really want to share, and it's really interesting. And I think it's so important to connect that once upon a time, it was us. Like, as we said, we are lucky. We've got some vegan from birth here, but that's really a minority. And I think it's also a huge minority, the people who go vegan overnight. Again, that's absolutely amazing, and we've got some in the room. It wasn't the case for me. Oh, you went vegan overnight? That's amazing. Well done.
Well, I was veggie, and I met somebody at your stall, and she told me about chicken, and I started crying.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And I invite you to connect also, like, on the one hand, to who that was us, and we weren't bad people. We weren't doing it purposely because we hate animals. Most of us probably loved animals, and that was one channel of how we were able to make that step. But also remind yourself, what was it? What turned you vegan? A teacher, somebody showing you a documentary. How were they doing it? Was it like somebody who kindly gave you a nudge, who told you, you are my best student, I'd really love you to read this? Or was it someone who was shouting at you and telling you you're a really bad person? I think it's important because believe me, I sometimes want to shout at people, and I'd like sometimes to shake people and be like, come on, please wake up. This is happening. But often I think we have to remind ourselves that was us and taken a compassionate approach, because people don't like being shamed. Like, shame is a really horrible feeling, and nobody likes that feeling. We don't like to be made felt like we're really bad people. So let's connect to the goodness in the people and be like, you're an animal lover. Like, I can really see how much you care about these animals. Did you know about this or that? Or could I show you this? Or did you know how many animals die because of the meat industry? Do you know what's happening to the planet because of it? Because, I know you care. Thank you for joining me for this exercise. I think that's really powerful. So just a little bit more on our target audience, because, I think it's such an important thing. This is something I went to a training of Melanie Joy, who I really admire. I think her work is great. And we were talking about the tree and the low-hanging apples. So, this is not a hard and fast rule. Like, there are people who are on top of this tree who are not the low-hanging apples. But I mean, I've put our besties up here. We've got, Donald Trump. So he was asked by $1 Million Vegans, now Gen V, if he'd go vegan for $1 million, but he didn't, because he was too worried he would lose his brain cells. Yeah, that's actually a quote. Bless him. We also have our other bestie here, who Juliet recently went on, Piers Morgan, who Juliet went on his TV show with. And he thinks veganism is just a fad. And so let's think of that audience. I think they're quite high up on the tree. They're not low-hanging fruits, let's be honest. I mean, I'd love to see the day one of them turns vegan. And, I think there was some people that gave him a vegan sausage roll and he actually didn't recognize it. So, there is a way in. But then there's also a huge audience who are low-hanging trees. And we're going to go into fruits. We're going to go into the numbers a bit later on. There are so many people who say, like, I care about the environment, I love animals. And like one lady mentioned in the back, like the cognitive dissonance. We love animals, but then eat the others. So I think, it's really powerful to look at who is, I think often family is quite high up on the tree with the apples. I mean, my mum turned vegan. My dad is definitely one of the people who would say, like, I'd never, or who'd like still offer me after being vegetarian, for 15 years and vegan over a decade. He still offers me the lamb over Christmas. My mum and I make a point of telling it the flesh, the dead animal. So that's still, we have like some lower hanging fruit. So I do encourage you to look like who's in your environment, or even when you do outreach, probably the people who come over and talk to you, if you have like a banner with veganism, are already lower hanging fruits. So they're really worth investing in, and they could give us faster wins. Whereas even people higher up that tree, encouraging them to reduce is really powerful, because actually reducing animal products does reduce suffering a lot. And I know I would want everyone to go vegan. I'm not gonna I don't compromise on that one. But I know realistically, reducing first and seeing it's possible, and actually I can still walk. Like, I've been told on a TV interview before that all vegans faint. So, you just have to debunk some of these things, and for people to step closer to it and actually be like, actually I'm not eating meat every day, I'm still alive, nothing happened. Actually they might even feel better. It's really powerful. yeah, so the power of campaigning, and I want to show you the one and only way how you can turn everyone vegan. And I bet you're like really excited to see what this is now. That is, and yeah, I think it's just, and I've heard it a lot at this conference, and I think it's great, but there is just not one way to turn everyone vegan. Everyone goes vegan for different reasons, or they're like, key reasons why people go vegan. I think it's really important for us to support each other in our different ways of activism and what we do. There are people here, I don't know many of you personally, but let's say there's some people who do, they do leafleting, some people do demos, other people like cooking for people, and we're going to look a bit more into the different ways of campaigning in a second. But there's not one way, and it's really important, I think, to support each other in what we do. And, I think looking at research is really important because I think sometimes we have to realize there might be some ways that actually put people off more. And I think that's really important because there are some ways you can actually do more harm than good. The way people are spoken to, the way people feel when they leave a conversation with you. Because it's not actually, they don't remember necessarily the facts most. That's something they will remember. But one thing they will also remember is how they felt after the conversation. Did they speak to someone who made them feel really small, really little? It probably tapped into their childhood trauma about never feeling enough, not being good enough, not doing enough. Or are we actually, giving someone a feeling like, oh yeah, actually this woman is right. I do really care about animals, and I haven't looked at it enough, and I haven't actually looked into what I can do about it. I wanted to just talk about a few examples. I think for me that's all like very close to what I do all the time, but I thought hopefully it adds some value for you to just share a bit about VIVA's different ways of campaigning. The circle size is absolutely not correspondent to whether something is like more effective or less effective, just different examples of campaigning. And the bigger circles is what VIVA focuses on more. But like I said, there's so many different really important ways of doing campaigning, doing research, turning people vegan. So yeah, one big thing VIVA does are undercover investigations, and we have an amazing head of investigation, so I'm sure doesn't want to be pointed out in this room because she's very modest, but she does an incredible job of going out on farms and getting that footage and, directing a team of people to get the footage. And it's so important because we've just seen everyone's free advert, cows living free and happy. And I think I'd like a little hand raise. How many people, one main factor was to see undercover footage in going vegan or helping them along their journey? Please, hands up. Yeah, that's quite a few. And that's interesting. Also, actually, can I hear some of the others who didn't put their hands up? What were your kind of main reasons? Just like really quick fire, just like documentary outreach or something. Yes, please. Wow, yeah, that's very powerful. Someone else? Amazing. Well done for making that change. I think it's even harder when you get older, isn't it? Amazing. Thank you. It wasn't. Well, that's... Yeah. Amazing. Share your stories with other people. Yeah, that's very powerful. I saw a hand up there. Social media. Yeah, we are going to talk more about the power of social media. Really, really big now, isn't it? One other? Yeah, please.
When I was a child, I was veggie anyway. In the house, I wasn't veggie. But it was...
Sorry, too much audience interaction for you here.
I was veggie, but it wasn't really supported in my house. But my uncle was a butcher. And I lived in Libya. I saw the animals murdered in the market and things like this. So it was always knowledge. And then it was that conversation I had with that one person, and I'd read, I think it was Veganist, a novel about an activist that was talking about all things. It was bad enough reading it. I don't even know if I can watch these movies.
Yeah, very
knowing
powerful.
it is just too painful.
Yeah, and I think that's totally okay. I think we should give ourselves permission not to watch any more horrible footage once you are vegan, because it is horrible to see, like when you have so much empathy to actually see the suffering of animals. So it doesn't make you a worse vegan if you stop watching horrible footage. It makes, a really powerful vegan who takes care of themselves and probably will be able... Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, I could just add, I'm embarrassed and a little bit ashamed to say I went vegan for health reasons. Basically.
Please don't be embarrassed.
But the story was I was misdiagnosed with something called pericarditis, which is heart inflammation. And I Googled something and it said family and friends in this time when research, I'd seen all these videos, I found out things I was unaware of, and my family said, "Oh, you don't have to be vegan anymore." After everything I've seen for the last year, I can't change that.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing it. I think it just puts so much power to the fact that the reason why we go vegan, it's not what it's about. It's amazing. You went vegan for health, and afterwards you stayed vegan because your defenses came down. You probably weren't as... Yeah, that's... Hand of applause, please. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I think it shows, like, it doesn't matter why people go vegan. Once you're vegan, we can help people along the way. And I mean, for me, I definitely think it was a journey. It wasn't like from day one, I was this convicted vegan who's going to work in an MRI's rights charity for all her career. You know, it was a journey of like, bit more. Or yeah, I only eat now. I will not have dairy milk, but I still eat like cheese and so on. Thank you for sharing that. So undercover investigations are very powerful, and I love to see the diversity of why people went vegan in this room, because it just shows that, you know, there are all kind of reasons. So then another one is the mainstream media and press. So with those undercover investigations, our PR team with our head of investigations, and, you know, it's an effort of teamwork, try to place those as exclusives in national newspapers. And these reach people who would normally not organically be reached, because, you know, on our social media, if you reach people organically or in our own circles, these people see those messages all the time, but we need to reach the people who haven't seen this yet or who've not seen it enough, because let's remember those seeds. It's really planting the seeds, isn't it? It's not just this one thing which probably made you vegan in the end. It was like different bits and thinking and then having another seed planted. So yeah, media is really important, the press. And we recently, well, it's not so recent anymore. I think the first time it was on TV like 2 years ago was our Take Away the Meat ad. Can I just see who's seen it? I'm just curious how much it traveled around the vegan scene. Anybody else seen our Take Away the Meat ad? Oh, see, I can just shows again like how little of an audience you sometimes reach. But this one actually reached a huge audience because we did get it onto Channel 4 TV. We did a crowdfunder. We had a high donor who added to it. And it was seen by over 32 million people on national TV and even more on social media. So that's, you know, really important to get people thinking. It actually was the one of the most complained TV ads to the Advertising Standard Authority of the year, which it did really make people think, together with an ad which was about period products, and people, didn't like that people were talking about period products and blood. So I think that's really interesting, and it even, you know, I'm German, so for me this is a huge deal. It was covered in the German Die Bild, which is like a hugely read, it's a bit like the Sun, so we're definitely getting out there to a different audience. I think it really traveled very far. And really, something which is really at the heart of VIVA's work is outreach, and I'm really proud to say our outreach coordinator is here as well. So if you are interested to get into outreach, please come to our stall afterwards. Joe has set up an outreach host network of almost 25 hosts now. And, you know, these are people like you, and to be honest, it could be some of you in the audience. I don't know that. But it's people who dedicate their time and help with outreach. Oh, yeah, you're doing outreach, don't you? Amazing. And it's, I think, you know, if you think about advertisement and if you think about the meat industry, the dairy industry, the McDonald's billboards, you know, the food like AHDB, they've given away, they had like a Love Pork truck giving away meat. They are everywhere, and we have to be everywhere too, because we are up against a lot. And I just love the idea that there are over 25 events on British high streets every month with friendly people giving away food. We give every host a £40 food budget so they can give away free food, because really food is a big catalyst. Like people are like, oh, vegan cheese. Let's be honest, vegan cheese has come a long way. So if somebody tried vegan cheese 6 years ago, I can understand why they spit it out. But we've got better ones now. So yeah, it's really powerful, and you're very supported. Jo has set up like a training. She does regular Zoom trainings, and you're very supported. There's a WhatsApp group. So you don't only do something for the animals, you also are part of a community. And that's, I think, is something very important in the movement, because I'm extremely lucky. I work with another 25 vegans in an office, and we only have oat milk. But I do know that there are people around here who aren't as lucky, who don't have that big support network. Who might feel a bit lonely. And I remember when I was in that place, I was the weirdo for doing something I believed in so strongly. You know, I believed we have to save animals and go vegan, whereas everyone thought like, oh, you're not going to have this burger, and oh, she's a bit, weird, she's vegan. My friend was always called the vegan by her friends. So yeah, I think if you want to like be active and you feel confident to do outreach, but again, you don't have to be the most confident person. There's training, there are different roles in outreach, then please do come and speak to us, because I think, it's incredibly important that we are on the high street with the big brands and we have a presence too. Another one, I'm going to go into social media in a second, because I think that's, I've got an extra slide for it because it's so big and important. But of course, like mainstream documentaries, like one lady said, watching a documentary turned her, or one person said turned them vegan. Sorry. And then, we've got Netflix. We've got our Hogwarts documentary on Netflix, also on Amazon Prime. And it turned lots of people vegan. We've got lots of messages, people saying how powerful it is. Political lobbying was something we don't do. We're a consumer pressure group, and we do a lot of consumer awareness and consumer pressure campaigns, but there are big charities out there who do that. And as I said, it's really important that we work on this from all different angles. Protests, we do protests as well. I don't know if anybody been along to a VIVA protest before? Oh, I see some hands, great. Oh, that's quite a lot. That's lovely to hear. And direct action as well. VIVA has to be a bit more careful with direct action. It depends on what it is. We're a charity, so we have to make sure we're legal, because otherwise the Charity Commission could take away our status, which would be obviously very horrible. We couldn't help animals anymore if they would freeze all our funds. And then social media, which I prepared an extra slide for, because it is really powerful. And although this sounds might be some common sense, I thought it's important to bring it back to our mind. So I think anybody who doesn't work in marketing or social media, they probably are mainly familiar with organic reach, which basically means somebody shares something and you see it or you post it, there's no money put behind it. But organic reach really mainly reaches our own audience. We have we just had over 100,000 on Facebook, didn't we? Do I remember that right? Yeah. So we've got a lot of followers on our social media channels, but those are the people who are already interested, who want to dip into veganism, who are already really convicted vegans, and they share that, and you again share it with your audience. So let's say some of your audience is already vegan, some of your audience doesn't know anything about it. So that's amazing. And to increase organic reach, you have to, if you comment, like, and share our posts, our organic reach will be increased, because the algorithms rate it as more important content. So I please encourage you all, if you do your Facebook, social media scrolling, to do like, comment, and share, even if it's just a heart or so. That is very useful. And we had a video which did go viral organically, Dance of Joy of Hope. I don't know if anyone's seen it. The sow we rescued 5-6 years ago. Has anybody seen her Dance of Joy? Nobody. I wish I would. Oh no, some people. I wish I would have brought it, but I thought we're too short on time. Because we're already. We're already quite fine. Lots of audience participation. But it's really what really helps us reach a different audience is paid advertisements. So I do encourage you to donate to charity so we can reach more of this audience, because then we get really to the people. We can target the audience and say we want to reach meat eaters with this. We want to reach vegetarians with dairy footage, and it's so cheap on social media. You can reach a person with 2p, and let's say for 15p. That's we always actually analyze it by if somebody has watched half of the video or the full video, so they really got the message. So that's really powerful. Influencers, really big nowadays, but also very expensive. So again, do you maybe know someone who's an influencer who would work with us? Or do you know someone, who'd just do a post? Because, even a post for an influencer, £500 is very little. It's more going to go in the thousands. So it's something, if you know someone, or do you know someone, a celebrity, because we've got contacts to the architects, and they now share our contact for free because they care about the cause, whereas we couldn't afford working with a celebrity. It's just really expensive. One small note I wanted to say about keyboard warriors. I think it's when you do, especially if you do paid advertisement, you push it to an audience who is very new to veganism. So there's a lot of comments which are probably not, if you look at the Daily Mail, but those are probably not the people we're changing, but the people who just take it in and see it and probably not put crazy vegans. I wish we had this lovely email the other day of the crazy tofu eating vegans. You get some interesting ones. Yeah, but I also want to encourage everyone to be supportive of other vegans on social media. And if you see something you feel like, I think there's a lot of this like vegan enough, not vegan enough, or this person does something which isn't vegan enough. I do encourage people to message people privately and have a really civil conversation about it, because I don't think we put out a really good message to meat-eating public about our community if we have a lot of infighting. We want to be welcoming, and we are all in it for the same reason. We don't need to fight each other. We have a big enough enemy out there. Like, we don't need to make more enemies. So yeah, that's something I did want to stress as well. I can keep this really short. Where are we now? Because I feel Matthew Glover already tapped into this and other people. But I did want to stress that there actually is a range of stats came out this and last year. And the range of saying how many, this all relates to the UK, it is a range. Like some stats, like YouGov says they're 3% vegans, where the Finder study says it's almost 4.7. And then same, like if you look at like meat eaters, vegetarians, pescatarians. So I think we are making change. There are more, and it's always, it's like often self-defined. So probably the real number is somewhere in between. But I think it's important to remind ourselves these are a lot of vegans and also a lot of low-hanging fruits. So there's a huge audience we can influence and turn vegan, and every one of us can do that. And it leads me to our take action slide really at last. So, and I think this is a repetition because so many people said it, but it's important to find your thing. How do you want to help? And there's not this, one lady said it took her quite a while to get active. There isn't this one right way to do it. And it's really important to find your way. What do you like? What do you enjoy? And how can you do that sustainably? Obviously, I already mentioned the How to Get Active with VIVA, our outreach network. We have a volunteer network as well. People do stalls, just sharing our content on social media. And there are lots of other ways. We're based in Bristol, so sometimes we need volunteers in the office. We've also got some amazing flyers here if you want to find out more about the outreach network. And obviously support a charity. So you can join VIVA and support our work. You can have a look more about what we do, come to our stall. Because I think, I'm not saying, obviously I'd love you to support VIVA, but support any charity as well, because it's so important. As we saw, there isn't enough money in this movement. And even £3 a month, it's really, you can make a difference. And it's really important for us to know that we've got this regular income to plan our campaigns. And as a final word, I think I'd like to stress, when you become active, when you do things in activism, because I've heard a lot about activism burnout, how important it is to look after yourself as well. Because I think people see sometimes suffering on a scale, the animals suffer more, so I should make myself, even if I'm not feeling well, even if I feel like I'm doing enough. But suffering doesn't really exist on a scale. Your own suffering is important too. So if you feel you're doing too much and you're burning yourself out, ultimately you're not helping the animals as much because you won't be able to sustain it. So I do encourage everyone to look after themselves as well and, find ways how you can find a balance and how you can give to animals. And obviously, our team is here if you want to speak about getting involved. So lastly, I want to thank everyone to listen to me. I want to thank everyone to be so active in the audience. I really loved hearing your views and your stories. And we can have some questions if there are any more. And obviously, otherwise, you can always contact us to talk more. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, it is 12 o'clock, so it's lunchtime. So we can do a couple of quick questions if you want to. So yeah.
I won't feel offended if you run to lunch.
Thank you so much for this. It was really, really enlightening. I think what we have to also consider in terms of action and saving more animals is the role of money, because this hardly ever gets talked about, because underlying everything that the world revolves on is money. And the biggest contributions that we make is where our money lies. So in terms of banks, in terms of pensions, we have £3 trillion in UK money lying in pensions that most of us don't agree with. Violence, wars, meat and dairy, deforestation, all of these things that we don't agree with. While we're sitting here trying to do everything we can physically, if our money is in the wrong place, it negates every single action that we take. So one of the things that I've been researching into is where do we put our money, right? So where do we make it work? Now, in trying to save taxes, we put so many thousands of our pounds into pensions. So one of the good ones that I found was Nest. And I've written a blog on it, the Nest Ethical Fund. and they invest in like 50 different companies, and the only non-vegan company in that list that I came across was AstraZeneca. So the action then could be, how do we either ask AstraZeneca to stop testing on animals, or how do we ask Nest to chuck them out of the fund so we can make it a vegan fund? £3 trillion. You know, we looked at the budget for McDonald's, 400 million marketing, right? We're talking about 20 times more just sitting there.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
That, and again, banking, you know, passively, we got current accounts, whatever, just sitting there, we're thinking, all of us, we're grown up, and we think, okay, where do I get the highest interest? But where's that money going? So again, we shifted to Nationwide. You know, it's the least destructive bank that we came across. So Nest, Ethical Fund, and Nationwide. So those are the two kind of money vehicles that we looked into. I've written a blog on, if anyone wants to like come up to me, I'll give you the website details for it. But secondly, there's a podcast that I do as well. And one of the last guests I had was Silas Rao. He's one of the guys behind Cowspiracy. And you know, he's a systems engineer, so he knows his data and his facts, and he did an extrapolation. And the timeline, unfortunately, we talk about 30 years, 40 years, the deadline that we're facing is 2026. Because that's the year when most wildlife, or if all wildlife die out with current extinction levels. And if they die out, the forests and oceans die. And if the forests and oceans die, we die as well. So we really, I know it's just, you know, it's a grim fact, but this is the timeline we have to work with. Not 40 years, not 50 years. I know we have to be realistic, but we really have to ramp it up. And finally, you know, I work as a dentist with my wife, and some of the conversations I have with my patients, and even when we give like workshops and lectures and whatever, one of the things that I try to analogize is, it's like taking a gun. So every time we have meat or dairy of any animal product, we take a gun and we shoot our lungs with it. Because I try and relate it back to the forests and oceans. I tell the people that these are not our true lungs. Our true lungs are the forests and the oceans. And every time we kill an animal, we kill a part of that forest and ocean. It's like taking a gun and shooting ourselves. And when it comes to suicide, when it comes to killing ourselves, I feel it's one of the things that people most relate to. Like, how do I protect myself? In the end, we are the most selfish person. So how do we relate it back to the person themselves? How do you want to protect your family? How do you want to protect yourself? So those are kind of the 3 points that I want to
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, very good point. And I think that blog sounds really interesting, because to actually know where to put it, like VIVA employees, we have an ethical pension, but obviously we have very few of them. And like you say, there's not much awareness around it. Yeah, thank you very much.
If it's very quick.
It's quick. With your big ad campaigns like Take Away the Meat, have you done much testing of the way people react and their intentions to go vegan?
I'm glad you asked, because I was speaking to Natalie yesterday, because we're actually looking, because I think, we can't rely on us as vegans. What do we think works? So I was speaking to her because we're working on a new dairy campaign advert, and also on we've got 2 different ones for a general animal lover advert, and I'd really love to do some testing and find out how much is it and how. So please let's talk, because I really want to find out how do we reach those meat eaters, and what is the best message, because it might be very different from what we think is right.
Right.
Please let's talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your lunch, and enjoy the rest of the conference.